But first tonight, a deadly tornado has ripped through Oklahoma City in the United States. Authorities say 91 people have been killed, but many more deaths are expected. The tornado flattened several blocks of the city and destroyed at least 2 schools. It brought winds of more than 300 kilometres an hour and was about 1.5 kilometres wide. Rescue crews have been working throughout the night trying to find survivors. Hospitals have reported treating more than 200 injured people. Here's some remarkable vision from a nearby television station moments before staff were forced to evacuate.
Who are no doubt watching us right now as this storm bears down on the city of Wichita.
You know, JD, in 20 years I've never said this, but I think it's our time to go.
Dave,
I really do. We've been monitoring the conditions here downtown. So at this point, folks, we here at KSN are moving to our shelters. It appears that it is time for all of us to get to shelter. Get to shelter right now. Ryan Newton. Now, Ryan. Now. Everybody down below, let's go.
Our first guest tonight was responsible for the recovery effort in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Professor Ed Blakely served 2 years as the Executive Director of the Recovery and Development Administration. He's now a Professor of Urban Policy at the United States Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. Professor Blakely, welcome back to the drum. Now, we've been hearing that emergency workers in Oklahoma are working through the night trying to rescue more people, especially from those schools. How much pressure will they be under right now?
Oh, enormous. They'll be using dogs. They'll be using sniffers, they'll be using all kinds of things. Every second counts, as you know. If a person loses contact, they might slip into a coma, you can't find them, and they're gone. So this is enormous pressure, but they are very well trained.
Now, this tornado was scouring this community with winds of around 300 kilometres an hour. But Oklahoma City is used to tornadoes. Are you shocked at how deadly this one was?
I am a bit. They're usually about 100 kilometers less, but still very bad. And in New Orleans, we had them at 150, and they destroyed most of the city. So this is twice what New Orleans suffered. This is really terrible. But let's go back to what you can do. And the thing they were trying to do was get underground. That's how houses used to be built. Now they're building houses on slab. That's the real danger.
So are you saying that the reason there were so many deaths is that the accommodation in the city has changed?
Yes. I'm not saying that's the cause of all the deaths, because some people were killed in automobiles or on the street. But in the old days, people went underground immediately. Every building had underground shelters, and I think we're going to have to go back to that now that the weather is so much more violent, so much more unpredictable. And that's true here for Queensland as well.
It's interesting, though. I mean, if this city, and it had a very bad tornado, I think, a little over a decade ago, if this city is used to tornadoes, you would think that the more recent accommodation would be better built so that it's prepared for such disasters.
Well, they have made some changes. There are now shelters you can buy from stores that are pretty good, where you can get down underneath and under your house and so on. But so you can buy something, put it in your back garden. So there are things that people can do, but most people try to ride it out. That's $5,000 you don't have to spend. You're hoping it won't happen to you.
Now, one of the most difficult things to watch today was the children in those schools where they were asked to stay so that they could shelter, where the schools thought they could protect them. And then, of course, they took a direct hit. But should those shelters have been able to sustain that?
Well, I think one has to look at that. Usually, shelters in schools are very, very good, and most schools will have a basement in them to accommodate the children. This probably hit them so fast they couldn't even get there. This wasn't a question whether there was a shelter. It just hit them so quickly they couldn't use it.
Have you been able to contact the authorities there in Oklahoma? I know that you've had a lot of experience also with Superstorm Sandy in New York.
Well, I've had colleagues who are in the business, and they're tweeting, they're sending out messages asking for help. It is early days right now, and the worst thing you can do is run in and say, I'm here to help. But everyone's on the alert. The thing that we have to think about is there's probably going to be another one soon, and that's what my colleagues are preparing for. Oklahoma City is usually the opener, and you can expect them in Colorado, Nebraska, maybe the Dakotas. So the preparation now is going on in those states.
Will this have been a warning to those communities?
Most certainly, and you can imagine, you know, if you live in Kansas, you're looking for your shelter right now.
And how important, what sort of challenges are these communities going to be facing over the next few days as they try and work through finding these people?
First, they have to find the people. But the thing you have to be very careful of is getting back to normal. Shelters, just like earthquake, have a little back, you know, you get one through, and then a smaller one comes, a trailer comes behind it. So they've got to get people off the streets. They got to get them in shelters. They have to arrange food supplies for them. This is a big job because the entire area is affected, not just that city. So the officials nearby, within, let's say, 100 kilometers, are now buckling down, getting people off the roads. The worst thing you can be is in a four-wheel drive, driving down Highway 35 right now. So they're going to start shutting down those highways. This is a big blow to everyone because people want to be mobile. They want to get to their homes and their families. This is not the time.
Ed Blakely, thanks very much for that update there.